All right, so rifle setup. We're going to talk today about my rifle setup, why I have it set up the way I do, what are some of the things I use this tool for, and as we kind of go over in detail of the rifle, you can kind of figure out some of the pros and cons of the setup and why that may be something you may need on your rifle or may not. Now, I want to start off by saying that when you build a rifle or kit out a rifle, it's done for a specific purpose. Generally, you can have a rifle that's going to be pretty good at everything you need it to be, but if you're looking for something that's specifically built, whether for a certain size or purpose or caliber, maybe it's for just general shooting or maybe it's more for hunting, that is something that you're going to need to take in consideration when building your rifle out. So today we'll start from front to back, go over everything in detail, and again, I'll explain why I like this setup and why it works for me. Generally on a rifle, when you're building one out and you want to know where to start, what your first attachment would be, most people are going to recommend, if you already have some kind of sighting system, either that be an irons or an optic on your rifle, most people are going to recommend, myself included, is a good quality light to put on your rifle. Now, a couple of reasons why you would want a good light is, for one, most importantly, is being able to see what you need to hit. If you ever needed to be in a low light situation, or maybe you needed to use this in some kind of self or home defense scenario, being able to see what you need to shoot is going to be very important, because generally the rule of thumb is you can't hit what you can't see. With that being said, I recommend running a quality light that you know will give you a good lumen output, a nice clear lens, good even flow of light, and most importantly, be rugged and reliable enough to handle whatever it is that you're doing with it. I personally run here on my rifle the Surefire M600 DF, DF meaning the dual fuel system. And what that basically means is that it can run on two different ways of power, either the rechargeable battery that comes included with it, or you can run up to two CR123A batteries in it that will also allow it to run. When you run the rechargeable battery in this light, you get 1,000 lumens of pure white light. And if you're running the two CR123As, you get about half that, 500 lumens, which even then is a pretty good amount. Now, on the light here, I do have it switched on the DS09 tail cap here. And what this allows me to do is I have a lead that comes out from the back of the light, runs up to the pressure pad on top of the rail, which allows me to give me a momentary on from the light, or if I needed a permanent on, I could hit the tail cap in button here, and that gives me a permanent on until I hit it again and turn it off. Now, one thing I will say about the Surefire lights is that they are rugged and they are built to go through anything that you need them to go through. One thing that may or may not be something that you'd want with this particular light is the candela, which is essentially the throw. Surefire lights generally flood, and when that basically means that when you hit that light on, it pretty much lights up everything really wide left to right and really just kind of flood the whole area of what you need to see. Now, something you'll notice right away here with this particular rifle is that the entire upper receiver is the Geissele URGI. So if you're not familiar with the URGI, that stands for Upper Receiver Group Improved. This is what is currently being ran by USASOC for the United States Army Special Operations Command. And generally, most of their special units are going to run this upper receiver group. Generally are probably going to be attached to some kind of, Colt lower or anything like this. This is kind of a pretty forward thinking of the military to go, and this kind of changes a lot of things and adds a lot of benefits and adds, a little bit more versatility compared to the older or maybe the more traditional RIS-2 setups. Now, don't get me wrong, a really great Mark 18 quad rail RIS setup is pretty bulletproof and still used today. I have one as well, but Going forward, something that you're going to see kind of with these newer handguards are more of a thinner profile, lighter weight, and generally are going to be in the M-LOK configuration. Breaking it down into pick, M-LOK, or key mod, generally that's all user preference. I wouldn't say any one is better than the other, but just pick what you like and just shoot your gun. Don't get too hung up on what you need it, what you would want to use it for, or what you'd need it for. Just it all works the same way, just different way of doing it. But speaking more up on the upper here, the URGI is a improved version of the Mark 16 rail from Geissele. And this one is the 10-3 variant. This one here is a carbine gas system. The barrel is made by Daniel's Defense. It is a cold hammer forged chrome line barrel, which in my opinion would be probably the best, or maybe the best run-of-the-mill kind of setup of a barrel that you would want. The accuracy of it has been pretty well. I haven't stretched this out, seeing that it's only a 10-3, I haven't stretched it out really too much past 100 yards, but when I do, I can generally get around 1.5 or so MOA out of this barrel. Yeah, I'm pretty sure with different types of ammo and maybe really tight zeroing and other kind of improvements or control of your scenario, you can probably get it a little bit tighter. But with the carbine gas system that this upper has, they went with kind of an interesting size here. They went with your kind of traditional, but I wouldn't say controversial. There's really nothing wrong with it, but they went with the classic 750 gas port. Now, I understand why they would want to go with that. That generally, with that gas port, allows for enough force and gas and enough oomph to really cut through any kind of debris, dirt, sand, whatever would generally get in the rifle, to really help it run in all scenarios. But what this basically means is, because it's a carbine gas and because it is that port, you're gonna have a pretty harsh shooting rifle here. It is gonna be pretty overgassed and can be a little rough to shoot sometimes, but generally any kind of ammo you feed it, it will just chew right through it. So for some people that might be, a benefit. They, may not be able to afford or want to shoot always the best ammo, so they can generally get around with any kind of ammo they can find, load it up, shoot it, know it'll work, and just have a great, reliable, functioning rifle there. Especially now where ammo is becoming more increasingly difficult to find, maybe something that will work for you. Now, how is that like when the suppressor's on? Well, it is not fun. Even with all of the other devices I have in here to help mitigate some of that increased gas, it is still a hell of an overgas system to get blowback in your face and burn, and it's just not fun. So anyone who shoots suppressed, you're pretty sure you already know how that goes. All right, now starting with the muzzle device here, on this particular rifle, I run a Surefire War Comp. Surefire War Comp, what that basically does is kind of combining a flash hider and compensator into one. We have the 3 prongs here to help eliminate any kind of muzzle flash as you're firing. And then, as you can see here, there's holes drilled into the muzzle device, and what these holes are there for is they allow the gases that are escaping from the barrel to push and kind of flatten down the rifle as it fires and as the muzzle tends to rise up. This can help, of course, keep it more accurate, but also help with the recoil and making it a little bit more flatter to shoot. Moving on to the bolt here, we have an LMT enhanced bolt carrier group as well as the enhanced bolt. So in here, there's actually a lot to be said about this bolt, but to basically sum it up, the purpose of this bolt is it has a special kind of way that it extracts and ejects spent casings. As the rifle is firing, It has a lobster tail design that is designed to get that round out and get that spent casing and just get it out of the way. That way we can ensure there's nothing getting hung up, caught up inside the bolt, and we can ensure there's less malfunctions, and we can quickly cycle up that next round that we need. A lot to be said about that bolt. If you're more interested in learning more about that, there's lots of other great content you can look into it, or maybe I could do kind of more of a detailed video on that at another time. Now, moving on to the lower. On the lower here, we have the Radian ADAC. And this lower has got a lot of nice features that you would traditionally not see on any kind of your standard mil-spec lowers. Now, other than being fully ambidextrous, this has an ADAC system which basically allows you to manipulate and control everything you need, such as magazine release, bolt release, everything like that on either side of the rifle. Really ensuring that fully ambidextrous manipulation. One thing that you can do here is you're able to hold the bolt open from the firing side, so you never have to take your hand off fire control. To do so, you can simply hold down the magazine release, crank the charging handle back, and you have a bolt hold open. Now you can hit the paddle on the left side like you traditionally would on a standard receiver, or we can simply hit the bolt release right here at the top, which sends the bolt home and loading the rifle. Again, super awesome lower receiver here by Radian. You generally can't go wrong with anything that they offer. I am a big fan of EOTech optics. I like to run the EX series on this rifle here. What I like about this particular optic is that I have a very large window and a very nice reticle to where I can kind of get a lot of information and see a lot through this optic. Another great thing about it is that it has built-in hash marks and kind of another dot in the center for any kind of holdovers or anything like that, which are very useful just depending on what you're using the rifle for, and what kind of zero you have, things like that. Now, this is the EXPS 3-0 model, which the 3 just signifies that it's for night vision shooting. With EOTech optics, they're built pretty rugged to where you can really take them through a beating and they'll just keep running. Now with this optic, they kind of have kind of this metal hood that kind of goes over it right before the glass, and that just kind of protects the optic for any kind of drops, falls, things like that. Glass in it, super clear. You may find that one of the pros of running an optic like this is that if you struggle with astigmatism or anything like that, the reticle is designed in a way which, at least from people I know that shoot these optics and have that, it's designed in a way to where nothing will come out too fuzzy, too blurry, or have any kind of lines through it or anything like that. Generally, if you're looking through this glass onto your target, the reticle just seems to just line up right in your field of vision there. With a holographic design, unlike a red dot, the holographic design is that the reticle is centered right there in the glass, and no matter how you look through the glass, the dot is not kind of moving around as you look through the glass, so you don't have to find your dot per se. When you look through a holographic optic, no matter how you kind of tilt, angle, or move your head, the reticle is right there where you need it, and it can make finding that dot to get on target a little bit smoother and faster for you. Now, some of the cons of this optic, other than its pretty big size, it does take up a lot of room there. Other than its size, battery life is a kind of a big deal here. So EOTechs, specifically with these series, are known to not have the greatest battery life. However, it's plenty enough for what I need. Generally, they have an auto on-off feature, just depending on how you turn it on, of either being on for 4 hours before automatic shutdown or 8 hours. Which, if every now and then, if you're just coming by here, hitting the button or something, you can kind of keep it on. Now, it runs off a single CR123A battery, which I keep extras here in my grip. I always carry up a couple extras if I need them for my light or for my optic. So if you generally have a couple of those on hand, it truly shouldn't be too much of a problem. Sling setup. Sling I have here is a Faro Concepts. This is the Multicam Arid. Really great sling. I haven't had too many issues with it as far as getting snug, snagged, binded, rolled or twisted over anything. It's thick and padded enough to where it's comfortable, but not overly thick to where it's just too big and bulky. It does have a pull tab here, which I can adjust in or out the slack and kind of bring the sling in or out if I need to, you know, let it down and move it, or zip it up really tight and keep it across my body. That way it's not flopping around or moving around or anything like that. Now, where I have my sling positioned, I like to run it right here on the back of the QD end plate, which I have here as a Forward Controls design. Now, the Forward Controls design QD end plate does allow for a couple of neat things. If you run a traditional 6-position buffer tube, you can run the stock all the way in while still keeping that sling swivel in the QD attachment when it's fully closed. This being a 7-position, this never really fully closes right up against it, but if you were running a 6-position or even a 4-position, you would be able to do that without having to take your sling off and move it to either the left or right side. This pretty much sums up the rifle here, and moving on to why I have it set up and why I have this shorter barrel length. Generally what this rifle is set up for is for if I needed to keep it on myself, or maybe in a vehicle, in a bag, at the bedside. For me, I really like 10-3s just because I can keep it as short to maneuver it wherever I need to without having to bump into things, having that extra length getting in the way, while still being able to get a reliable cycling round count out of it. This is in 5.56, and at 10.3 is generally as short as you can really go with it. If you're wanting to build a short gun, I wouldn't recommend going anything lower than a 10.3 just because you start running into some pretty frustrating complications and reliability issues there. So 10.3, 10.5, 11.5, 12.5, pick your poison, whichever works for you and whatever you like. I just like this 10.3 here because when I get that suppressor on there, that adds generally around 5 or 6 inches or so, and so then I get pretty close to an overall length of 16 inches. So when I'm running that suppressor, it's not like I have a 16-inch barrel with another 6 inches on top of it where it's even longer than it needs to be. So that's generally why I like the 10.3 in this variant. Being able to move it around, get it in and out of places, of course, is just a lot easier with this shorter barrel. But I hope this all has been pretty informative for you. Anything other, any kind of other concerns or issues or the usual questions you get about rifle setup, building it out for specific purposes, again, I'm all open for any kind of questions you may have for that. You can let me know either on my Facebook or Instagram. It's going to be generally the best way to get a hold of me. Yeah, I think we've pretty much covered everything there. So that's the rifle setup there. Thank you guys for watching, and y'all take care.